Hello all, I'm Shifty, and today we're going to be taking a look at a respawn pods mod that I made for the default Space Engineers star system. Each location has a different pod, resulting in a variety of unique starts. Furthermore, they are balanced to fit in with a series of NPC mods I'm developing with the goal of bringing the default star system to life. More info on that project is available over on Patreon, but for now, let's jump in and check out these pods. Starting with the space pod, we are just going to be spawning in with each one, and I will give you a quick look at what you're starting with and maybe give you a few ideas as to why I made the design choices that I did. The space pod here is small grid. Now, I thought it was extremely unbalanced that in the default game, the only large grid starter pod is the space pod. It's also listed as being difficult, which I think is silly because you start in space where you don't have to deal with gravity and you have easy access to every resource in the game by just flying between asteroids. So I'm not sure why it's considered a difficult start, but I figured I'd balance it out, at least resource-wise, as to what you're starting with by giving you a small grid space pod. Now, to counterbalance that a little bit, I did decide to give you the solar panels to start. So you do have a power source, and I just put a drill right on the front of your ship. That's pretty much always the first thing everyone does anyway. So I figured I'd streamline that just a little bit to start with a little prospector ship. A few other things you're going to have to start for your convenience include an ore detector, a camera so that when you are in the seat you can zoom in on asteroids and spot ore from a distance a little more easily. And then as far as blocks and cargo, you do have a hydrogen engine, a small hydrogen tank. We have a survival kit, which is piped right through to the front of the vehicle, so the drill puts stuff right into the survival kit. The survival kit can then move stuff right into the medium cargo container right here, so you can move all your components and whatnot in and out of here. Your ore can store here. That's all good. Attached to that is an O2H2 generator so that you can recharge your bottles and get them out right through the side here. You can also get them out through the survival kit if you want to do it that way. And this will let you recharge your ship off of ice if you are running a whole bunch of stuff and your solar panels can't quite power you. You can turn your O2H2 generator on, your hydrogen engine on, and you can power yourself off of ice. I've done a start a few times on a server with this ship, and it does feel fairly balanced relative to the planetary starts. For the Earth pod, I decided to give you a rover, and this one spawns in right at the surface here, so you don't have to wait for it to drop out of the sky. You've got a handbrake on number 1 on your hotbar, so definitely use that instead of pressing P. If you can handle it, you should do it that way, probably. And this is fully functional to start. It is worth noting that it does not have a gyroscope, so maybe don't take it off of a jump right away, but it has very similar blocks to the previous one. You've got your cockpit. It has a hydrogen engine. This version does not have a hydrogen tank, so it's just the fuel storage in your engine. And then we've got an O2H2, a medium cargo container, and a survival kit right on the back there. In addition to that, I went with the solar panel thing again. I don't know, I've been getting a kick out of solar panels recently, so if you press number 3 on the hotbar, you have a solar tracking panel, and that can track while you drive if you want. I usually will put it away. If you just press 3 again, it'll put itself away, which is pretty convenient. Hopping out of the vehicle, you can see that we have buttons on the side. These operate just beacons. The one on the other side is kind of mirrored, and it just operates the solar panel as you would inside the cockpit. We've got our medium cargo container. To start out, you have very similar stuff. You can access your bottles to recharge those from there or from the back of the survival kit. They're all hooked up. On this side, like I said, you've got the solar button and then also your ore detector, so you can detect what you're driving over, as long as it's close to the surface at least. Something worth noting for the rover here, I did want to give you a mobile start, but I wanted to make it relatively short range. So it doesn't have a ton of batteries. Yes, you can charge off your solar power, but if you are using your wheels, they actually draw a lot of power, and this vehicle only has 8 small grid batteries. So you're going to run out of power relatively quickly. It actually, I think, has a shorter range than the default starter pod for planets, because that one you can just stick some ice in it and you can just go straight to space if you want. You can also turn on your atmospheric thrusters on that and fly anywhere you want on the entire surface. So this is actually slightly shorter range, even though you do have the ability to move around conveniently with the wheels being a rover. One more unintended feature due to the fact that we have a solar tracking panel. We have a camera on it, and if you want to, you could probably just go to hotbar number 2 here. Custom turret controller on your hotbar, set it to control it, and then you actually have a little periscope that you can use. Now the controls are a little bit inverted for this, but I thought that was kind of a neat feature. And when you stop controlling it, it just goes right back to tracking the sun on its own, which is pretty neat. Continuing out from Earth here, we have our moon pod. Don't worry, they're not all going to have solar panels, but this one once again does. Spawns here real close to the surface. When you land, it locks to the ground, and it instantly deploys a nice little solar panel for you. Now, I'm going to press number 4 just to level us out a little bit, and then we can hop out and we can take a look at what we're working with here. Look at that view. I think it makes for a nice lunar pod. This one is very similar setup to the default starter pod for planets. We've got a survival kit right here, a medium cargo container, an oxygen tank to keep you alive, and then an O2H2 and a medium battery. Well, a large battery for small grid. If you want to access your ship's inventory, the best way to do that is through the survival kit, either on the front or the sides here. This is where you can get your bottles in and out of your O2H2 to recharge those. And if we jump back in the cockpit, you'll actually see that if we hit 2 and 3, then unlock with 4, we do in fact have 2 little thrusters on the bottom which will let us fly. Now it's just one directional thrust, so you're going to be a little bit wobbly doing this. But if you wanted to spawn on the moon here, and then just take this straight up and land on an asteroid and start on an asteroid between the Earth and the moon, this is an easy way to do that. I really like having that option, and going to space from the moon like this is a little bit easier than going from the planet, which was normally an option with the default starter pods, but I like this a little bit better. Next up, we are going to take a look at the Mars pod, and this is where things start to get a little bit unique and special with this mod, because I wanted this spawn to fit in with a pirate NPC mod that I'm designing to go around Mars. So this one is a crashed ship, and you spawn in mid-crash, so let's check that out. Alrighty, here we are on the surface of Mars. We just got shot down by pirates, and there is debris from our ship scattered all around us. Now don't worry, the alarm will go off on its own in a second here, but the ship should always survive with at least the bare minimum to get started. We've got a battery, a survival kit, and we have an O2H2 inside here, which you can still access, so you can get going with all of this. There are also quite a few partially broken down atmospheric thrusters on this vehicle, so you can salvage some of those. There's a gyroscope right here which is slightly broken, but you can get everything up and running fairly quickly. You've got a number of heavy armor blocks on the front here, as is indicated with this partially ground down one, and that helps you fix up all your thrusters and whatnot. So if you want to get a minimum functional flying vehicle going, you can do that pretty quick with this setup. There's also a turret up top here to help you defend against the ongoing pirate attacks. And right up underneath the wings, or what used to be the wings, we have a whole bunch of guns. It's kind of a sneaky thing because you don't see it from in the inventory screen, but you can load up on ammunition and try and defend yourself. I think that's going to be a pretty fun start for a lot of people, and if nothing else, it'll at least be unique. Right next door on Europa, your respawn pod is going to be a skimmer. Spawn right here on the surface. You can see our hydrogen levels and whatnot right on the top of the screen, which I think is kind of nice. And embracing the zero friction icy surface, you are going to be able to scoot along. If you want to park, there is, again on number 1, where I usually put the handbrake, a little parking mechanism which will lock you to the ground so you don't have to use power when you want to be stationary. But this thing just kind of scoots around. It mostly has atmospheric thrusters. The only hydrogen thruster it has is on the back there. But that does enable you to take this right to space if you want. There's not a whole lot to do on Europa. It's kind of an interesting situation in that, yes, you start with a survival kit, but there is no stone. So you either need to go to space, or the way I kind of intended this to play is that you would do an economy start here. You'd scoot around on the surface. Let's turn our signals back on, see if there is a beacon. Yes, of course. There's almost always a station if you have economy enabled nearby on Europa. So we can go over to that. You can see this thing is fairly robust. We can take quite a good drop on it, and it's going to be just fine. We got a lot of wheels on the bottom to keep us safe. If you don't have a station that is in visual range, you can open your inventory, right-click this, get the GPS marker for it, and then go to your GPSs, turn it on. It turns out that that is the same one I already have. We have a GPS marker for where I just died. We can ignore those for now, but you could fly up or scoot up to that station and you could start running missions for them. You could do search missions or things like that, and that'll let you buy up and buy a ship, a small ship maybe eventually, but something that you could take to space a little more easily, or combine it with your starter vehicle to take them both up. Let's take a look around the outside. Up front here you have a little access point. This doesn't go to a whole lot, but it does act as a storage thing, and then also for charging eventually when you have something set up to charge it. Your survival kit's right back here, attached directly to your O2H2, so in the back or on the side you can access this. Recharge your bottles, pull them in and out. Over on this side, again, we just have our locking gear, and then we have this little periscope. This lets you look around, zoom in on things. Maybe if you see an asteroid up above you, you can zoom in and see if there's any ore on it. Maybe it's a good place to start. Now, this vehicle mostly flies more than it does anything else. You'll notice that once you get up to speed here, 100 meters per second, you don't really touch the ground much, but that's okay. Let's take a little jump here, and then we're back off and flying, and we can actually just take this right up to the station. And now we can start doing our trade missions, and maybe, if we're lucky, we can get up to a small ship that we can fly around more easily. Next up is the alien respawn pod, and this is another one that was designed to go along with a NPC mod that I'm designing. The NPC mod is nowhere near being complete, but the idea is that you'll be spawning in with a research pod, something that you can take down onto the surface and determine settlement viability, explore the alien ruins, and have a cozy little home. When you reach the surface here, the first thing you're going to want to do probably is look up at these panels and hit number 2. Number 2 will unlock your mag plates. As long as you're not on a cliffside, this will allow your ship to settle into a level formation. Now, actually, it tipped me a little bit because the terrain is crooked, but it levels you with the terrain, so it's easy to walk in and out of the vehicle. Now, in here we have a full little kitchen, and we've got some stuff stocked for you to keep you cozy while you explore. A little Sabroid plushie. Hopefully you don't get attacked by those too much. But we've got some inventory stuff. These barrels here you are going to want to check because you don't see these in the inventory screens. You got to switch to the little helmet icon over here, and then you find that you have a few little goodies in there. Over on the other side, we have our cargo storage. This is where you're going to be able to access all sorts of things. These right here, you're going to access from the airlock, so we'll take that. Check that out in a second. We've got guns underneath here, survival kit right there. If you crouch, down here you have a small hydrogen tank. You can recharge your hydrogen bottle in here. It's a little bit sneaky, but you can do that if you have to. And right there is a gyroscope. If you want to salvage that, you're probably not going to be needing it with your small little station. Heading out towards the airlock, in here is where you're going to find the O2H2 that is accessible for putting bottles in and out of. Down here we've got a little medical kit. The med kit inside of it. This button just operates the ramp if you want to flip that up or down from inside here. And then this is just some automation stuff. You don't have to worry about that side. Doors will automatically close behind you when you walk through them, so you don't have to turn around at all while you're going in and out. And on the outside we have a ramp up down. A little sign so you don't crush yourself. A little warning. Looking around the outside, this is where your hydrogen engine is. We've got some access panels. This stuff behind here is just to operate the door and the landing sequence. Here's our air intake, so that you have oxygen on the inside. You can access the medium cargo container right through the side here, or you can access all the cargo through the back. Of course, you're not going to be able to put stuff into your tanks into your O2H2. You're not going to be able to put your tanks in from up there, but you can just open the door over here and do that from outside. Around on this side of the vehicle, we've got some flavor stuff for the most part, but we do have a ladder. I'll look at the weather. There's always weather. I should probably turn that off when I'm doing these types of things, but we have a ladder so that you can climb up here if you have jetpacks disabled, so you can do maintenance on the top of your vehicle. Maybe you want to put a lightning rod, an additional lightning rod, because that's what this is. But if you want to fix that or put an extra one up here, honestly, the first thing you might want to do is build some solar panels for this vehicle, because while you do have the hydrogen system set up to produce power, if you don't have ice nearby, that's not going to be particularly useful to you. There's some ice up on that mountain, but we also have this large battery here, so you should have enough to get going at least and establish a base. Next up, we're taking a look at the Triton pod. This one's definitely a weird one. Oh, we are landing on an ice lake too. All right, here we are. Landed a little bit funny, but that's all right. We can deal with that. This is a walker. So it is mobile technically. You can go ahead and you can hit these buttons and it'll walk around. That's going to put things upside down. This one has very similar blocks to the other ones, so you can access the survival kit. If you want it to stop, you just got to click one of these middle buttons that say stop! Exclamation mark. And it should stop after finishing its step. So in the middle here, we've got cargo. You can get to your O2H2 and your bottles inside there. We've got an antenna, a little bit of everything on this one. And if you really want to, you can just hop onto it while it's walking and ride it. I won't subject you to watching that in first person because everyone's going to get sick doing that. But you can ride this thing off into the sunset if you like. Quick disclaimer before we move on to the next one, this vehicle is powered by good AI, so you might want to be careful if you leave it unattended for too long. That finishes off all of our primary planets and moons, so we can finally move on to Pertam. This one's designed to fit in with my Scrap Lords of Pertam mod, and it is a broken down rover. The intended style of playthrough with Scrap Lords of Pertam is that you will be using rovers. Scrap Lords hate anything that flies, so you will spawn in with a broken down rover. Maybe you got chased down, shot at, and you do get the rules decree of the Scrap Lords. I highly recommend going through and reading those if you are playing with the Scrap Lords mod. They tell you exactly what you should and should not do in order to survive here on Pertam. As for the vehicle itself here, you do start with a functioning survival kit, an O2H2, and a few other pieces here and there. We have a tank here that has a bunch of hydrogen in it, and a little periscope that you should be able to patch up. With the materials you can find around the vehicle, you will be able to fix the wheels. Now, there are a little bit of things you could pull out of these wheels. Maybe you get rid of the middle wheel over here, and there's some stuff in the inventory, which you can access through the back. Once again, this would let you charge bottles, but the intended playthrough style for Pertam is that you are not using your jetpack. You are just going to be using a rover and driving the entire time. I kind of figured Pertam was the perfect place for this style playthrough because flying is not very good. It has the highest gravity and kind of a cruddy atmosphere, so atmospheric thrusters aren't a great option. And when it comes to driving, it has absolutely amazing terrain. You have long, flat areas, which are very easy to drive through, and then very interesting, difficult terrain to drive through. So it is my personal favorite place to do rover playthroughs, so that's why we are starting with rovers. Last but not least here, we have the Triton starter pod. And for this one, I decided to just go ahead and give you a truly easy start. So you spawn in with a fully functioning flying vehicle. Zoom out, see we spawn in about 1,000 meters off the ground, and our vehicle is flying with atmospheric thrust alone. We've got a nice battery on there, and we have everything that we would need to start. It has the survival kit in the back, medium cargo container, much like all the other setups, and then the O2H2 hydrogen engine, a little hydrogen tank snuck in there so we can charge things up. Some other bells and whistles include automatic landing detection, so when you start getting close to the ground, the right side will fold up so that you can do a nice landing. Let's bring it down slowly here. You can see we've gotten closer to the ground. The right wing folds up. I kind of like the way that gives it kind of a Star Wars ship feel. And it has a little landing mag plate on that side. And when you get back up to altitude, that will fold back down for you. I thought that was just kind of a neat feature. I've always wanted to make a ship like that, so why not just make it a starter pod? We also have a camera on this one, so that you can zoom in and see ore deposits or bases or different things like that from a distance. You're not going to be able to take this straight to space because it is just atmospheric, but you should be able to fly anywhere you want on the planet and pick your ideal starting location. That is going to be it for this showcase. Let me know in the comments what was your favorite and what you would have done differently. I've made about a dozen of these type mods, and I'll probably make a dozen more, so I'm always interested in hearing new ideas. If you'd like to make a starter pod mod of your own, I do have a tutorial for that over here, and if you just want to see more cool pods, you can always check out the starter pod competition showcase. Before you head out, I just want to say thanks for watching. Consider hitting that like button. You can always subscribe if you want to see more, and of course a huge shout out and thanks to my Patreon supporters. I'll see you all in the next one.